Hello and welcome, my name is Kyle. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Let's Play 80 Days. So it is day 80, we're down to about 3,000 pounds. We've just arrived in Washington and we are going to depart for New York tomorrow. So we'll stay the night. People were somewhat wary of Monsieur Fogg as we roamed the streets of Washington. Several buildings had not yet been rebuilt since the burning of the city by English forces in 1812. It seemed an overprotective reaction. Not only was that particular skirmish 60 years past, Monsieur Fogg was clearly not a military type. Still, not everyone was cold, and a few people were out to make a quick buck, as is right and proper, or as seems to be typical for the treatment of tourists worldwide. Yep. Do you want the full tour, gentlemen? Asked Hank Henbury, a man with smooth, dark skin and a fine leather jacket, who strolled up to us, as though we were cowboys on his main street, as though the sight of an English gentleman and his battered valet were par to his normal fare. We are not staying, we are not visiting, or we are looking to leave as fast as possible. Yeah, we are. Leave? Well, where to now? He smiled. You haven't seen what this place has to offer. Indeed, we have not. Thank you. We are not interested. And what does this place have to offer? Let's ask him. Everything, he replied, spreading his hands wide. Hank leaned in closer. Now tell me, he purred. What's your poison? We are quite unaccustomed to being poisoned. Cognac, gambling, or transportation. You know. So transportation is the gamey response. Gambling, Cognac. I'm going to go gambling, I replied ruefully. He smiled and rubbed his hands. Now is that right? I'm partial to a good flutter myself. Monsieur Fogg's eyes lifted from the middle distance and settled on the man in gently combative fashion. Is that so? Oh, indeed. I could have wept, or one wager at a time, monsieur. I'd say I could have wept. Follow me, Hank said, and beckoned us towards a low doorway and a half-gutted building. We race guild-certified mechanical rats through mazes. When they meet, they claw at each other. It's sport like you've never seen. I looked to my master, who seemed indifferent. We followed him. Oh, we're going to see these rats racing, there's no doubt. He led us down a side alley and through a low, unmarked doorway. Is this wise? I hissed to my master, but I do believe he pretended not to hear me. Hank stepped inside and turned. If you wouldn't mind removing your hats, gentlemen, he said. That should have warned me what was coming, but it did not. We doffed them as requested. I'm kind of leading myself down a bad thing, but we shall see. We doffed them as requested, and Hank smiled and led us inside. The room was not as dark as I had expected for a gambling den. A group of people sat in a circle. All right. Let's say they're all hatless. There was no music, no bar, no cards. Welcome, gentlemen. Take a seat, Hank said, Hank suggested, gesturing at a chair. We are here to take a risk and maybe win your souls. All right. I don't understand. The truth of our circumstances dawned on me. That's not true. I don't quite know what's going on yet. This seemed a most curious place indeed, and not at all what I had expected from Monsieur Henbury. One of the unbeheaded number looked up and smiled, and gestured to Monsieur Fogg, patting the seat next to her. What could he do? His gallantry forbade him to decline the invitation. Hank led me to another chair. We were praying, monsieur. Won't you join us? Ah, okay. A little religiousness going on here. Won't you join us? I sat down, not quite sure what to expect. Monsieur Fogg was already accepting a Bible from the lady next to him. Our particular mode of worship, Hank continued, is to sing our hearts out to the Lord. If you don't know the words, that's no problem. You'll feel them from your heart soon enough, I'm sure. You can expect, I imagine, the reaction this news elicited from Monsieur Fogg, or I will not try to describe what followed. We're gonna figure it out. He gave no outward sign, of course. He was as stoic in the face of congregational singing as he was in the face of an exploding airship. But I, who knew him well, could see a note of true fear entering his eyes. To be devout is one thing, but to sing? But there was no way out. We had been trapped most effectively. I can't look at him. Could not beat my master's eyes. So that's actually good. So I stared inside at the cross that hung on the wall, on the far wall, and thought of the salvation that would come when we were finally allowed to leave. After the service was done, there was tea and pie, which I found somewhat restorative, and finally we were allowed to leave. "Remember what you have witnessed here today," Hank called to us as we bid him farewell. "Oh, believe me, we shall," I replied. Then we hurried away with the Bible pressed into our hands as we left. I looked at my master, and I believe he was shivering. "I do not feel quite well, Passepartout," he declared. "Not well at all." All right, so we can sell the Bible, though, if we get to Ponta Delgada. So New York, when does that leave? At 2 p.m.? So I think we have a little bit of time to explore before we miss it. We have 4 hours, so... Ooh, what is this? Well, there's Ponta Delgada. I walked the streets a while, hunting for ways in which we might travel onwards. Well, let's see what that's got. Let's see, go all the way out here. So today's Friday, it arrives Sunday. I don't know what's out there. I kind of want to go there though. Let's negotiate. No charge. It leaves at 5 today. Let's do it. You only take 1 suitcase though. Alright, what do we not need anymore probably? The American sets helped us quite a bit, but we're leaving America, so we probably don't need that anymore. Starts at 5. All right, let's go sell some stuff, right? Just don't want to lose too much time here. So this is part of the. We'll sell this. We're taking that. We'll get rid of the American wardrobe set, I think. Oh. What else is part of that? Probably don't need... Well, I don't know. We are kind of going across the sea. Alright. We're just going to have to pay for extra luggage because I don't want to miss the flight. I don't want to miss the... kind of wasteful, but... Listen, my children, and you shall hear how we boarded the Paul Revere for the ride. Forgive me, friends. To the tiny farming island of Ponta Delgada in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I stopped the navigator to ask why such a large ship went there, and he nodded sagely. "Refueling," came the reply, "and it's a lovely place with it." A fair answer. We would not want to fall from the sky. Fogg's okay, so let's have some conversation. Ponta Delgada. Did you learn anything in the paper that might help in Ponta Delgada? I know that Ponta Delgada is linked to London, aboard the 6 of 1, but the fare is over £7,000. Okay. How are we for money? We are amply funded. I do declare you've been most excellent in managing it. What do you know about London? Really, I really couldn't talk to you anything about it. Okay. So we don't have the money to do this, though. It's the problem. So we're going to have to make some money somehow. It occurs to me, my master remarked, as idly as one can imagine, that we are aboard a long-distance airship which is not bound for London. I saw the direction of his mark, but close to London, or what does it matter? I'll say, but close to London? We could be closer, he replied, returning his attention to his cravat. I found my way to the bridge to discuss the matter with my friend, the navigator. You want us to go faster? The navigator said. Is that it? If you can, or go to London. Or go to London. The navigator shook his head. But what about fuel? Ponta Delgada is where we refuel. I told you that. You must carry spare. The navigator stared at me. We're a boat with 150 souls aboard, and you want to risk us all? What's your price? I will abide by your decision in the matter of safety, or you are right. Forgive me. I really don't want to put the lives of 150 people aboard. I will say you're right. Forgive me. Forget it. Everyone wants to go faster. The man slapped me on the back, but I suggest you go below and enjoy a drink to make the time speed by. He was right, so I retired to the bar with a glass of cognac in the company of a pleasant lady named Madame Constant Calamity. Yeah, I mean, there was probably a thing that I could do there to maybe get the ship to go to London, but I really don't want to put the lives of all these people at risk, honestly. So from a role-playing perspective and from just a me perspective, it's not something I would do or Passport 2 would do, I believe. Let's ask Constance about this. I understand that Ponta Delgada is linked to London aboard the 6 of 1, but the fare is over £7,000. Speaking of airships, I understand Lisbon is linked to London aboard the Major de Deux, but the fare is extortionate. More London talk? Keep talking. Lisbon? Please, monsieur, I must go, but I hope we will talk again. Alright. Monsieur Fogg was, I think, somewhat disappointed when the airship continued to cruise eastward and finally lowered from the clouds onto the tiny island of Ponta Delgada. I was rather happier to be on dry land and in one piece. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I mean, we don't have a lot of options here. We have to raise a lot of money. So, the Bible sells for quite a bit. So we'll do that. It's not £7,000 though. The whole traveler set is here. Okay. So there's really only this London route, and I just don't think we can afford it. So we have to stay here. Ponta Delgada was the largest settlement on the volcanic island of São Miguel in the Azores. Delicate pewter automata harvested fruit. Yeah, I'm always going to pick the automata option. From the abundant orangeries watched over by Portuguese gentlemen farmers in pristine white villas. Monsieur Fogg, of course, took in the pleasant environs with one cursory glance and bent his head to his almanac. Our wager is finished. Why don't we rest here, or we have come so far? I don't want to rest. So we have come so far, I marveled. I can scarcely believe it. My master looked up from his note-taking briefly. We are not in London yet, he said. Find out when the next airship to Lisbon departs. A practical suggestion, or as you say. Time and time again, I had seen the prudence of Monsieur Fogg's approach. I paused to breathe in the scent of citrus on the way to the harbor. It lingered in my nostrils for days, long after we had departed for the Azores. All right. All right. Let's do some exploration. I don't know what we can do here. So we do find a route. I struck up a few conversations here and there, investigating the various possibilities for how we might make progress. All right, so what is that? It arrives today. A farming gyrocopter. Okay. It's 100 pounds. I mean, we might as well do it. When does it leave? Before 4 p.m. Alright. There's nothing we can do. Alright, let's just do that then. It's bearable, and we have plenty of room. We're on a gyrocopter. Farming, like, is that like a crop duster? We were given a gyrocopter ride to Lisbon by one of the local gentleman farmers. Monsieur Coutinho grew oranges and corn, but my real passion is poetry. Fogg's okay, I believe. Greetings, monsieur. It is a pleasure to fly with someone so cultured. Lisbon to London. I find your accent confusing. Porto Novo? Seems unlikely to me, but answer me this. Have you ever written a novel? I don't believe Passepartout has written a novel. I have not, no. I think your adventures will make an excellent tale. It's possible travel. I think you're out of luck. Quebec City, goodness, but is that the time? Yeah, he got kind of bored, and so did I. Some of those conversations just go nowhere. Did you know, remarked Monsieur le Pilote, that Entero de Quintal was born in Ponta Delgada, only 2 streets from my own birthplace? I know very little of Portuguese poetry. I do not know de Quintal. I dislike poetry. Well, that's not true. I do like poetry. I'll say I know very little of Portuguese poetry, I admit it. Monsieur Cortino nodded sagely. Of course, you consider the French tradition superior. Let me see. I suspect you prefer Baudelaire over Rimbaud, am I right? I thought for a moment. Baudelaire, for he understands Paris. Verlaine, for he knows the pull of the unfamiliar. Or actually, I am a devotee of Swinburne. Let's go with Verlaine for the unfamiliar. I close my eyes. J'avoue des... Oh, this is going to be bad. J'avoue des archipels Cédreaux et d'Église, dont les cieux des rangs sont l'ouvrier et vulgaire. Monsieur Coutinho translated, I have seen sidereal archipelagos and islands whose delirious skies are open to the sea wanderer. Yes, I can see why it appeals. The gyrocopter began to bank, and my stomach turned over twice. However many times we fly, I will never be accustomed to it. Okay, well, do we have a route back to London? We do have a route back to London. Okay. Arrives tomorrow at noon. Alright, well, let's see what we can do here. We'll stay in the hotel. In Lisbon, we sat down to dine at a charming little restaurant with views across the Iberian coastline. The maitre d' hotel came over to our table as the waiter brought us our aperitifs. Signors, he cried, wringing his hands, I have a great favor to ask. Well, ask it already, man. I'm sure we can accommodate you, or we are just leaving. We'll ask it already, I replied, my stomach rumbling ominously. My foolish brother, what a trial he is to our dear mother, has made a grave error, and we have 2 guests without a table. The maitre d' looked English. Could we possibly impose upon you, signors, and add 2 to your number? I'm going to regard Monsieur Fogg, and he declared his throat. Well, then, we shall be glad to oblige, he said. The maitre d' ushered a top-hatted Englishman and his dapper Prussian valet to our table. We were strange mirrors of each other, or I did not rate the cut of the Prussian's jacket. I don't want to play the snobby route, so we'll go with this. Though Monsieur Fogg and I clearly comprised a superior, more handsome image. Passepartout got me there, didn't he? Our masters greeted each other and made the particular sort of upper-class small talk which forms gentle background murmur to a servant's ears. Meanwhile, the Prussian valet introduced himself as Diedrich and gave a hearty sniff as our appetizers were served. I hope the food is up to Herr Montgomery's standards, he remarked. Herr Montgomery is very particular. A difficult master, is he? I asked with false sympathy. Diedrich bristled. I will thank you to keep your personal remarks about mine heir to yourself, Herr Passepartout. We gave each other a look, the sort of look 2 poisonous snakes might exchange when thrust into the same basket. I decided to make an innocuous inquiry and ask what the monsieurs were doing in Lisbon. Ah! Well, the thing is, my master and I, Diedrich paused to chuckle to himself, we are traveling around the world. You? I spluttered. You are traveling around the world? Yes. Diedrich nodded with satisfaction and leaned closer. For a wager. No, I shook my head in horror. That cannot be. Indeed. Diedrich continued implacably. We are heading to Tangier tomorrow, and from here to South America and across the Pacific. West? Instead of east, I mumbled as though in a dream. Diedrich ignored me loftily. And what, he asked with awful courtesy, are you and your master doing in Lisbon? We are also traveling around the world, I told him churlishly, and could not resist adding, my master and I went the sensible way and are nearly back to London. Monsieur Montgomery looked up from his plate, his eyes cool and remote. What a remarkable coincidence, he remarked without expression. Quite, my master responded. And that was that. We all took our leave with awful, echoing politeness, and I made sure to give Diedrich a warning look when he bowed smartly to Monsieur Fogg's hands, or pressed Diedrich's hand with a particular firmness. Let's go with the firmness. As we parted, I think we understood each other, valet to valet. You seem discomfited, Passepartout, my master remarked with a barest hint of a smile. I did not like that Diedrich, I said. He had a thieving, unctuous look about him. I would not be surprised if he were a fraudster and duping that poor Monsieur Montgomery and keeping him as a valet. I crossed my arms. What sort of name is Diedrich, anyway? Passepartout, Monsieur Fogg said with a small sigh in his voice, you are a man of remarkable depths. So, departs at noon and arrives today in London. Well, how much time will the exploring take? You know what, we're just going to depart. And I'll pay for the space. And let's go on the Madre de Dieu. We left Lisbon aboard the Madre de Dieu, an old Torres Quevedo airship with a belly full of agave oranges and early season cherries. The smell of ripe fleshed fruit would no doubt tantalize me, but even such juiciness could not turn my eyes from the prize. Barring storms, side winds, pirates, fires, explosions, escaped criminals, or any other such, London was now finally within our reach. Let's talk to Fogg. A game of dominoes with you? Capital. Monsieur Fogg looked out of the observation deck windows with perfect calm, though the wager was lost, and he was no doubt ruined. I watched him closely, for fear he might do something drastic. I spent the remaining time watching every possible danger, one eye on the crew, the other on the ship, ready to react to the slightest trouble, but nothing broke the peacefulness of our day. We tethered the airship at dock in Hyde Park and felt, for the first time in 84 days, the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last, we had returned to London. All right, that's it. So we completed a trip. We visited 20 cities and 30 cities. And that's it. I don't know what happens after this. I hailed one of the steam carriages idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. To the nearest pub or to the Reform Club. Let's go to the Reform Club, I instructed. My master shook his head. To Savile Row, he corrected calmly, and turned his face to the window. I have most assuredly lost my wager. Soot and fog thickened the yellow light of the gas lamps as we drove through the streets of London. I want to go with this. I want to see what this is. I think I only truly grasped the truth of the matter then, hearing the words in my master's uninflected tones. We had lost the wager, and by only a handful of days, one fewer delay, one speedier journey, and we might well have returned to London in glorious triumph rather than ignominy. My master entered his domicile with his habitual tranquillity. They instructed me to leave the windows shut up, so that his neighbors would not mark his return. I prepared his supper, and he ate heartily, as if he were not utterly ruined. Passepartout, he began. Yes, monsieur. In the silence that followed, I counted up the vast sums expended, or the hair's breadth escapes, all the obstacles we had overcome, and those which had delayed us. You have performed your duties with competence and skill, Passepartout, he said, as though remarking upon the weather. But more importantly, you have circumnavigated the globe as my companion. Despite the unfortunate protraction of our journey, he added, it was no small feat. And what will you do now, monsieur? I asked, trying to emulate my master's coolness and aplomb. My course, Passepartout, Monsieur Fogg injected smoothly, is fully decided. We must attempt the journey around the world once more. Once more? I cried. Indeed, Monsieur Fogg said implacably, an intent light glinting in his cold blue eyes. But this time, forewarned and better prepared, we will succeed. Yes, monsieur, I nodded smartly, glad that I had not bothered to unpack our cases. Monsieur Fogg consulted his ledger and tapped his pen. Perhaps this time, he said thoughtfully, a more southerly route. Your journey around the world is complete. While Fogg blames the sheer size of the world, crazed automatons in Rangoon, and Indian rebels destroying train line in Chittagong for 84-day journey. All right. So it took us 84 days. We traveled 29,819 miles. Took airships the most. We finished $19,000 in debt. Traveled about the same by land and by sea. 10,000 by air. Spent 18,000 pounds. And we are well heeled. Passionate. Strong balloting. That's good. We have comfortable relations with Fogg. All right. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, everyone. That was a fun little journey. We didn't make it in 80 days as planned. We took 4 extra days. I'll probably try this again just to see what else I can do. Do this more southerly routes, perhaps. But we'll see. But anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all next time.